If you are on the hunt for true wireless noise-cancelling earbuds and you want to know what the under $100 price bracket has to offer, then you have come to the right place, as in this video I'm going to test and compare all the best options for you. Hi everyone, my name is Andy and you're watching Andy's Tech Tone. In the recent years, the affordable earbuds market has gone through quite an evolution. Thanks to the extremely strong competition and the technological advancements that trickle down to lower price points, these cheaper buds can deliver almost as good an overall performance as the more premium offerings. So in terms of features, build quality and also sound, the gap is closing rapidly. But I reckon you are not here to listen to me blabbering about the whole in-earbuds market, so let's just move on to discussing the 5 buds that I believe are worthy of your attention at or under the $100 price point. Starting with quick overviews of each, let's see the most recent release of them all, the Earfun Free Pro 3 first. And being the most up-to-date, these earbuds are the only ones with a Snapdragon sound-compatible Qualcomm chip on board. And the list of features is as long as it gets. We can find support for the aptX adaptive audio codec, we got multi-point use, mono mode, low latency game mode, app support with customizable touch controls and EQ settings, wireless charging, 6 microphones and an IPX5 rating for improved protection against sweat and rain. And all that is crammed into the most compact package overall. Onto the Jabra Elite 4, we got a similarly pocket-friendly package with the best IP55 rating in the group, which makes the earbuds dust, sweat and rainproof. And you also get a 2-year warranty for dust and water damage, which is more than promising. On the Elite 4 we can find physical buttons instead of touch controls, and it offers regular aptX instead of the more advanced adaptive version. Multipoint is on board too, but there is no low latency game mode and no wireless charging. The smartphone app is decently stacked with options, and we get some advanced phone call features, Google Fast Pair and Swift Pair for Windows 2. Next up is the Sony WF-C700N, which would have not fit into this price range at the time of its launch, but as of making this video you can easily get the buds for under $100. And over the last couple of months, not only their price went down, but we also got new features such as multipoint or volume controls, which were not readily available from the get-go. The lack of wireless charging, on the other hand, can hardly be fixed through firmware, so it's still missing. But speaking of hardware, we got physical buttons instead of touch controls on the most lightweight earbuds of the bunch, which are also IPX4 rated, sweat and rain resistant. The Soundcore Liberty 4 and C are the only ones with a stem style design in this comparison, after I decided to feature the Earfun Free Pro 3 instead of the Earfun Air Pro 3. So we got the stem, but the buds are still very lightweight with a small-ish overall footprint. And it's not only the earbuds but also the case that has a unique design, as it comes with a button up top which pops the lid open. In terms of features, we got LDAC support, multi-point use, Google Fast Pair, single bud mode, wireless charging, quick charging and an IPX4 rating for the buds. And last but of course not least, here are the Soundpeats Opera05s, which you probably find to be the most surprising in this comparison. But as you will see, they fit the bill just right with their overall design and build quality, but more importantly with their exceptional sound. These buds might not be the most cutting edge in terms of features, but thanks to the triple driver design and the LDAC codec support, their sound quality is hard to match even at higher price points. And that special driver setup takes us to our next topic, which is design, build quality and fit. Housing multiple drivers requires a larger than average body, so the Opera05s are by far the biggest and most heavyweight of the bunch. The use of high-quality plastics applies to all the buds in the group, but while the Liberty 4 and C and the Opera05 have a glossy finish, the other 3 manufacturers used more of a matte coating on their respective buds. Sony is probably the most plain and simple looking, while Soundpeats is a bit over the top with its shiny golden colorway. The good thing about the Opera05 is that the part that goes into your ear canals has a matte coating, which contributes to the good fit of the large buds. Well, it's good enough for a slow run outside, but more intense workouts are probably outside of the comfort zone of these buds. And the same can be said about the Liberty 4 and C, as their design and weight makes them a good fit for not too intense workouts only. The Earfun Free Pro 3s are a step ahead with their replaceable fins and tight fit, but the winners are the Sony and the Jabra buds, as both sit extremely securely in my ears without a budge during running or exercising. As for long-term comfort, I would rank the Liberty 4NC the highest, closely followed by Earfun, while Jabra and Sony share the bottom step on the podium due to their deep-sitting nature, which might cause issues for some people. The large size and weight of the Opera05 can definitely cause some fatigue in your ear canals after a while, so they end up in last place in terms of comfort. As for the battery cases, all 5 can pass the pocket friendliness test thanks to their small-ish size. Maybe the Soundpeats and the Soundcore cases are a touch bigger than what I actually call easily pocketable, but I still find those two compact enough. The Soundcore case also has a unique opening mechanism, and while the design of the lid gives you easy access to the buds, this is the only hinge that is prone to flopping when fully open. The Sony case has the most solidly built hinge, and the textured coating gives you a solid grip on it too. In fact, even though this somewhat plain and industrial design is not my favorite, the Sony case has the most robust build quality with no squeaking noises whatsoever. The Earfun case has the smallest footprint overall, and it's also the most lightweight, and it's probably my favorite as far as its sleek design is concerned. The Elite 4 case speaks the usual Jabra design language, it's medium-sized with a solid hinge and easy access to the buds. Soundpeats had to store the large earbuds in a similarly large case, and while the lid opens and closes firmly, some play and squeakiness is apparent. Moving on to battery life, here you can see the official data published by the manufacturers. The single charge playtime and the total playtime are both with the AAC codec where available and without active noise cancellation. The Soundcore and the Sony buds can last up to 10 hours, followed closely by the Opera05 with 9 hours, and then come Earfun and the Jabra with around 7 hours each. The Liberty 4NC takes this round overall thanks to its 50 hours of total playtime, which means that the case can fully recharge the buds 4 times. The wireless charging support and the 10 minutes quick charge feature, which can yield the buds an extra 4 hours of use, are just icing on the juicy battery cake. And while the C700 shares the best single charge playtime award with the Liberty 4NC, the total playtime is a bit underwhelming thanks to the fact that the case can only recharge the Sony buds once, making the total playtime 20 hours. And while the 10-minute quick charge can give the buds 1 hour of use, there is no wireless charging support. And that's not because it couldn't fit in a small case, as Earfun managed to do it with the Free Pro 3, and we also get more juice both in terms of overall playtime and quick charging there. The Jabra buds can last up to 28 hours in total with the case, but we only get a basic quick charging feature and no support for the Qi wireless charging standard. The Soundpeats Opera05 offers no wireless charging and no quick charging either. In general, I can say that turning the ANC on reduces the single charge playtime by about 20 to 30%, so keep that in mind. Unfortunately, however, I did not have a chance to run all tests covering all use case scenarios with different ANC modes, volume levels and audio codecs, all of which can affect the battery life big time, but this comparison should give you a good idea of what to expect from each of the buds when compared to the others as far as their battery performance. And this next sheet should give you an idea of what you can expect from each bud in terms of connectivity and wireless features. The Free Pro 3 is a standout here with Snapdragon sound, a low latency game mode, the aptX adaptive audio codec and multipoint support. The Elite 4 supports multipoint use, and the regular aptX codec can also be used on Android, but the AAC audio codec is not supported, which is something that iPhone users have to keep in mind. Soundpeats is the only one of the bunch that will offer no multipoint with the Opera05, but they are one of the 2 manufacturers that decided to give us the high-res LDAC audio codec besides both SBC and AAC. And if you think that the other one is Sony, who practically own the LDAC technology themselves, then you are wrong, because it's the Soundcore Liberty 4NC. The Soundcore buds also support multipoint use, and in contrast to LDAC, that feature has found its way to the WF-C700N too, even if only through a recent firmware update. Multipoint as a feature works well on all 4 compatible buds, and it's platform agnostic across the board, but there are some differences. The Liberty 4NC, for example, cannot use multipoint and the LDAC codec together, so you can have only one or the other available at any given time. The Jabra and the Earfun buds offer you both multipoint and the aptX codec together, but Sony has no advanced codec on offer to begin with. Another feature that the Sony buds are missing is the option to manually switch between previously connected devices through their smartphone app. And while the Jabra cannot do that either, Soundcore and Earfun can, and that might improve the efficiency of your workflow in case you deal with multiple source devices on the daily. And regardless of all the differences in their wireless connection and features, what I found the same with all buds was solid signals, with no dropouts and no lip sync issues during my tests. That said, for hardcore gamers, only the Earfun Free Pro 3 can deliver a latency low enough in my opinion. And now let's move on with some audio samples from the built-in microphones on each of the earbuds, starting with the Earfun Free Pro 3. Now we got 6 mics in total on board of the Free Pro 3, and we can also adjust the volume from the earbuds themselves during a phone call. Next up are the Jabra Elite 4 earbuds with their 4 mics in total on board. With these earbuds you can adjust the volume, you can mute and unmute the microphones, and we also have side tone, which allows us to hear our own voice during a phone call, making the whole experience much more comfortable. Moving on to the Sony WF-C700s, we get 2 mics on each earbud, so 4 in total. We can adjust the volume from the earbuds during a phone call, and we can also switch between noise cancelling and ambient mode, but we don't have side tone. Next, let's hear the audio quality of the 4 built-in microphones on the Soundcore Liberty 4NC. Now, with these earbuds, you can change volume during a phone call, but you cannot switch between ambient modes, and you don't have side tone either. Onto the Soundpeats Opera05, we get 4 mics with these earbuds, and we can adjust volume during a phone call as well. But what we don't have is the chance to switch between different ambient modes, and we don't get side tone either. And now let's hear how the earbuds can handle some wind and noise in the background. So this is the phone call quality you can expect from the Earfun Free Pro 3 in such conditions. Onto the Jabra Elite 4, this is the audio quality you can expect when you happen to make a phone call with these earbuds when you are out. Next up are the Sony WF-C700. So this is how the microphones can deal with the elements such as the stronger than average wind and some traffic noise in the background. Our next audio sample comes from the built-in microphones on the Soundcore Liberty. So this is the audio quality you can expect from these earbuds when you happen to make a phone call while you are strolling around in town. Let's hear what we can expect from the built-in microphones on the Soundpeats Opera05. Conditions are the same as before. I'm standing on the side of a shelf, we roll with some And now let's see the controls. The Sony and the Jabra buds come with physical buttons, while the other 3 come with touch-sensitive panels. Out of the 2 with buttons, the C700 offers a slightly more precise and tactile feedback, which I prefer over the rather soft and sticky buttons on the Jabra Elite 4. Both buds can give you all the basic control functions such as play, pause, tracks, volume, ambient modes and voice control, but you can only reassign the functionality of the pressing actions in the Sony app and not in the Jabra app. Not that it gives you much freedom in terms of how to distribute these functions across all the pressing actions, but at least we got a basic custom option. And this is where the Earfun and the Soundcore apps run circles around Sony and Jabra, as both offer full customization across all tapping actions separately between the 2 sides. And if I had to pick one, that would be the Earfun Free Pro 3, with its large, easy-to-use, quick-to-react touch controls, and while the same functionality is available on the Liberty 4NC buds as well, the stem-style design is a touch less comfortable or reliable to use, pun intended. One trick Soundcore has up its sleeves though is autoplay pause, as these buds are the only ones with wear sensors on board. The touch panels on the Soundpeats buds are easy to use and quick to react, and with the exception of skipping a track backward, all functions are available. The only thing you can do in the app is disabling the single tap action, which controls the volume, but you will find no further custom settings. In summary, if I was a physical button aficionado, I would pick the Sony, and for those touch control fans out there, I would recommend the Earfun. However, for smartphone app enthusiasts, Soundcore is the best option by far. But let's start at the other end of the spectrum and see what Soundpeats has to offer in its own app first. Well, not much. There are the 3 basic ambient modes, the single tap kill switch, a 10-band manual equalizer, and 9 sound profile presets. There is also an adaptive EQ which tweaks the sound of the buds according to the results of a hearing test you can run in the app. The firmware upgrade option is so basic and it's available in all apps, so I will only mention it here. Stepping up a bit, let's see the Jabra Sound Plus app. On the main page, you can see the 3 ANC modes, a 5-band manual EQ and some presets. In the settings menu, you can set up some phone call options such as side tone, you can run an ANC test to maximize its effect, you can set up your voice assistant or use the Find My Jabra feature, which can locate your earbuds on a map based on their last known location. With Spotify tap you can create a shortcut, so a double press will take you to Spotify straight away, but I don't use Spotify and you cannot choose another streaming service to work with this shortcut feature, so it's no use for me. And that's it, no custom control settings, no extra options for the ambient modes, and no dual connection menu with manual switching between previously connected devices. And while the Sony can only offer a multi-point switch and no manual switching either, it at least gives you some limited customization for your controls. You can also set up the 360 reality audio, you get some EQ presets with a 5-band manual setting, you can play around with the 3 different ambient modes or with the DSEE upscaler, and there is the auto power off feature too, which some of you may find handy at times. But the most unique feature Sony has to offer is the adaptive sound control, which allows you to set up automations for your ANC and EQ settings for different use case scenarios and locations. As for Earfun, we got a 10-band manual EQ along with some presets, full custom touch controls, 3 ambient modes, a game mode switch, settings for the aptX codec, a dual connection menu, and Find headphones. But that impressive selection of features and settings is only good enough for a second place position, as Soundcore has even more to offer. We got an autoplay pause switch, a game mode switch, a sound leak compensation switch, LDAC settings, a dual connections menu, a tip fit test menu, auto power off settings, find device, and a quick start guide. And we have not even looked at what's on the main page of the app. This is where you can find all the ambient mode settings, the sound effects, which is the EQ, safe volume, and the custom touch controls. In the safe volume menu, you can set up the earbuds to monitor the sound pressure levels inside your ear canals, and you can put a cap on the volume in order to protect your hearing from prolonged exposure to unhealthy volume levels. In the sound effects, you get your 8-band manual equalizer along with plenty of sound profile presets, all of which are customizable too. The 3D surround sound is just a gimmick trying to create an expanded sound stage, but it does more harm to the music than good, so let's not talk about it much more. But then there is Hear ID, which runs hearing tests and some preference A/B comparisons to tailor the sound signature of the buds to your hearing and also to your personal taste. You can also combine this custom frequency response curve with any of the presets, and you can further tweak it yourself. So it's safe to say that Soundcore went all in with this app and its features, so I will rank them as the best with no questions asked. And now let's see how the earbuds rank as far as active noise cancelling in my experience. I would divide the 5 buds into 3 different tiers. The Liberty 4NC is top tier, the Free Pro 3 and the C700 are second tier, while the Elite 4 and the Opera05 belong in the third tier. But that's just my overall ranking based on my experience with the buds, and as always, your mileage and preferences might vary. However, I found the Soundcore buds to be the most impressive overall when it comes to blocking out external noises. And they are particularly strong at taming low-frequency hums and rumbles, so they might be the best option for commuters. And while both the Earfun and the Sony are a tiny step behind Soundcore in general ANC performance, each has its strength. The Free Pro 3, for example, can get really close as far as dealing with low-pitch noises, and the C700 can almost match the performance of the Liberty 4NC at higher frequencies. At the lowest tier, the Elite 4 blocks out more mid-range noises and lets through some of the bass and the highs, while the Opera05 is the opposite. And even though the Elite 4 is a step or two behind the Soundcore, it produces a much cleaner, hiss-free experience with ANC turned on, while the Liberty 4NC gives you the most amount of white noise, which I will consider to be the price you have to pay for the superior noise cancelling. Onto the ambient mode, it's the Sony C700 which feeds you with the most intense and most amplified version of the surrounding noises, but it does that only at its highest setting. We get a 1:20 slider in the app where we can tweak the strength of the ambient sound, plus there is a voice through mode which cuts down on bass and focuses more on the mid-range, which includes human voices. And so the C700 is probably the best, or at least the most versatile in terms of its transparency mode. The Liberty 4NC is a close second with its clean and intense ambient sound, and while we also get a vocal mode here, it does not make that much of a difference as the same on the C700, so I prefer the Sony Buds in that regard. The Jabra Elite 4 sounds sort of natural with no over-amplified noises, so if that's what you are after, then the Jabra must be your pick. But keep in mind that there are no settings, no sliders and no voice mode to be found in the app. The Earfun Free Pro 3 holds up quite well thanks to its recent firmware update, but I feel like it's still a touch more muffled than either the Soundcore or the Jabra. The Soundpeats buds have loads of bass and highs with slightly muffled mids, which harms speech intelligibility a bit, so I would rank them last here, but the good news is that I found the Opera05 to be the winner as far as the least amount of hiss in ambient mode. The Soundcore and the Sony buds produce noticeably more white noise, but again, the Sony app offers you the slider where you can play around with the ambient mode a little. As for wind noise, only the Soundcore and the Earfun app can give you a dedicated wind noise reduction mode, but I also found the Sony C700 to be handling those whistling noises quite well, even without such an option in the app. The mics on the Jabra and on the Soundpeats buds are more exposed to the wind, so these can pick up quite some noise on a breezy day on the prom, and we get no wind noise reduction with these two either. And now let's talk about sound quality so you can finally understand why I actually included the Soundpeats Opera05 in this comparison. I believe that the triple driver setup of these buds can deliver the most sophisticated and enjoyable sound in the under $100 price bracket by far. We got a 12mm dynamic driver for bass and mid-range duties, and also a duo of balanced armature drivers to handle the higher frequencies in each earbud. And as a result, the bass hits hard, it's tactile but it doesn't lack extension, and it's also snappy. Thanks to its lean nature, the upper bass does not bleed into the lower end of the mid-range, and that's why vocals can sound rich, open and forward without ever getting chesty or muddy. Instruments sound true to life and they come through with finesse. The highs are outstanding as far as delivering nuances and details go, the soundscape we get is extremely wide and spacious, and the imaging is almost holographic, and everything sounds airy without ever getting harsh, sibilant or overdriven even at high volumes. All in all, these are my favorites as far as critical music listening is concerned. And moving on to the second best sounding buds, the Soundcore Liberty 4NCs come with 11mm drivers. And thanks to their larger than average size, the bass that comes out of those drivers is excellent with good extension and with a substantial kick. But while it's not overdone and kept under control, it's not quite as snappy or layered as it's on the Opera05. We also get a nice presence in the mid-range with natural and clean sounding vocals and detailed instruments, but again, it's just a step behind of what the Opera05 can deliver across this frequency range. The treble has a good extension up top, but the separation is rather average, and so are the dimensions of the soundstage, or at least it is when compared to the Opera05. The EQ options are by far the most comprehensive in the Soundcore app, and using any of the options can drastically change the sound of the buds, but out of the box, it's very dynamic and exciting overall, which probably suits modern genres such as EDM or trap the best. Onto the Earfun Free Pro 3, it has more bass than the Soundcore and the Soundpeats combined, even though we only got 7mm drivers inside. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but the bass here is truly over the top. Probably the engineers focused all their effort on bringing out as much bass from these smallish drivers as possible, and they didn't have much left for the rest of the frequency range. These buds are the most bass-heavy of the bunch, and the slightly recessed mids along with the smooth but rolled-off highs make it more closed-in and darkish sounding in comparison. It's not the most sophisticated or open sound, but for bass heads and hip-hop lovers, these are definitely the best option out there. And if you like playing with an EQ, the app gives you that option too. The Sony C700 is probably at the other end of the scale as far as deep bass extension and low frequency rumble. The 5mm drivers can only do so much in the bottommost octaves, but we start to get some more energy in the mid-bass and throughout the mid-range too. The presence of vocals is definitely better than that on the earphones, but it might be slightly less forward and rich than it is on the Soundcore. The highs are kind of average both in terms of extension and clarity, and the soundstage also falls into that category. But while it's not the most exciting or most dynamic sound, it's coherent across the range with no extremities or obvious defects, which can make them a non-fatiguing favorite in the long run. And as long as you find a setting in the EQ which suits your taste the best, the C700s can sound smooth and enjoyable with most genres. And speaking of enjoyable sound, there are the Jabra Elite 4s with their 6mm dynamic drivers. What we get here is a lean bass with a healthy amount of thump, clean, rich and forward mid-range with neutral sounding vocals and detailed instruments. The treble is also detailed with excellent extension up top. Imaging is precise, but the soundstage is a bit narrow, which is probably due to the deep-sitting nature of the buds, which brings the drivers closer to my eardrums than on any of the other buds, so again, your perception or mileage might vary. But thanks to their good imaging, the lean bass and the open mids, these are probably best suited for more acoustical or classical genres. And as for maximum volume, I would rank the Free Pro 3 the highest, with the Jabra and the Soundpeats closely behind, while both the Liberty 4NC and the C700 are a touch less powerful in that regard. That said, any of these buds can sound dangerously loud at or above 80% of volume, and it's only the Soundcore app that has the safe volume feature, which can be gold in the long run. And to conclude this comparison, let's see how I can sum all this up. Well, first of all, there is the obvious. If you want the best overall sound quality and you don't mind missing out on some features, then get the Soundpeats Opera05. If you, however, need all the bells and whistles and don't want to make too much of a compromise on the sound quality either, get the Soundcore Liberty 4NC, which will also give you the best active noise cancelling and the longest battery life, making these the best option for frequent travelers and commuters. If big bass, big volume and big features are things you long for, but you want all that in a compact package, then get the Earfun Free Pro 3, and you also get the best touch controls as an extra. However, if you prefer physical buttons and want a big name brand with a balanced performance across the board, both Sony and Jabra can fit that bill. The WF-C700N offers slightly better controls and active noise cancelling, while the Elite 4 has an advantage in terms of audio codecs, IP rating and maybe phone calls too. And without trying to announce either of them as overall winners of this test, my personal pick would probably be the Earfun Free Pro 3 or the Soundcore Liberty 4NC for their most excellent performance across the board. And this was my take on the best in-ear buds under $100. The prices can vary depending on where and when you watch this video, but you can always check out the affiliate links in the description if you feel the urge of buying a new pair of earbuds while helping out this channel at the same time. Subscribing to the channel would also help big time, but if all you think this video deserves is a thumbs up, well, I would pretty much appreciate that too. Feel free to comment away should you have anything to add or ask. Thanks for watching everyone, see you all in the next one.